me?
2 minutes after. So.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Martak. I don't think she can hear us.
I don't think she's hearing us.
Do you hear us?
I'm gonna see if I can close that down.
And she sees.
Let me check.
I don't know that she can see us either, don't she? Because wouldn't it show a picture of there of us?
She has
Should.
At some point.
She has everything available to see us. We don't. I'm showing pictures. Yes, this point.
Martha, are you able to hear us?
Voice of God. She's got her volume on.
Testing my microphone.
There.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Okay, I guess we should start then. Yeah.
Okay, roll call.
Yeah, do the pledge first. Roll call.
Commissioner Claris,
Here.
Commissioner Fry,
In the restroom. Yeah, he is here. I saw.
he is here.
He's
Commissioner Colbeck,
here.
Commissioner Richmond.
Here.
Commissioner Whipple. Here. Vice Chair McClatchy
Here.
and Chair Colcat.
Yeah. You gave credit for being.
Thank you.
You rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have someone from the public. This is the time to get comment or something for the agenda. Who's behind you, Kate?
Oh, that's that.
She's with us. Okay, that's right. Anybody online from public?
I have no comments online.
All right. So let's do the minutes first. Do you need a couple minutes to read through, or was it read through them before?
Move the acceptance.
Second.
Commissioner Claris. Commissioner Fry.
Right, yes.
Commissioner Colbeck,
Yes.
Commissioner Richmond,
Yes.
Commissioner Whipple,
Yes.
Vice Chair McClatchy,
Yes.
and Chair Colcat.
Yes. Super. All right, so into the meat of our discussion. Before I hand over to June to start that, just sort of basic, I think maybe if we can spend 2 or 3 minutes on just, premise of, we do this every year, just as to remind ourselves as to what is as the commission's role in the budget process for the city, so that we're kind of clear on how we're adding value and what we're staying away from and what we are doing. So that's sort of kind of important for us to be sort of on the same page. Okay.
I'm on that.
Okay.
All right.
So we want you to review the budget in its entirety. Like the council, your policy focus. So you're looking mostly at fund level, but using your specific expertise to ask questions that maybe the general public or even council members may not know as well or as in depth as this commission. And then also looking at and reviewing policy decisions that are made in this budget. As an example, we're establishing a facilities replacement fund and suggesting we fund it at, I believe, $1 million this year. The city's not had one before. That's how we get situations like the fire stations having roofs that need repair that we don't have funds to repair. So we assume that at some point the community center will need a new roof, and we fund the facilities fund each year. When the time comes, we'll have the funds to replace it.
Okay. Super. I think that's really well said. Thanks, Gabe. Comments from people, and I have a couple of things I want to add myself.
Yeah, I'd like that. This looks different from last year. I like how you guys projectize this, because I don't remember this projectized.
Oh, yeah, this is a new format.
I think it's a very nice format. I like the description. I like the picture. I like that. The only thing I would add, perhaps for next year, is task statement.
What statement?
A task statement. Like, for example, some of the parks and recreation, there is like an NRE engineering.
Mm-hmm.
What is that task? How many hours? What are you assigning the person to do? How many hours are you estimating that to take, so that we can work through that?
That sort of opens up a relevant question. I think that I want to just bring up. I mean, there are some lines that just from our experience as operational people, we kind of wonder, like, can you really spend $500,000 on item X or Y? The ambiguity of is that yes, with our kind of a person who's kind of maybe seen that movie before, you can sort of kind of wonder and ask that question. But the commissioner had, it's not our place to sort of question why the Parks Department wants to spend $500,000 on some line that we think maybe is too much. So I just want to be clear that I think we're not an advocacy group, so that's fair that we are not here to advocate one way or the other. But if we see something that's sort of really out of the bound, I think obviously you and the council can do whatever you want, right? But I think it's fair game for us to sort of point out if things look a little too far. So I'm not really asking for the that are we getting somebody for $75 or $78 per hour to work on this thing. But I'm kind of just looking for us to be, as a commission, to be able to sort of say, can you, does this really look right, or is this?
An example is Shoot Park. There's $207,000 NRE. That's a mechanical engineer for 6 months. What's the task? No, we don't have to, and I agree with Colchi completely. We should know that hourly.
There are numbers much bigger than that. There are numbers in the CIP that are like $5 million for things that are hard to understand.
Right.
But so I think if there are some really big ones that, if you don't mind, we would like to sort of just have the opportunity to sort of just mention them. But again, that is not our primary role here to give you advice about how you should run the operation, right?
Right. And but in CIP, the section, like I said, this is the first year we use a new format. We added on expenditure at the bottom. We try to say that there was different categories. This is for design, this is for preliminary, what is for study, what is for construction, what is for equipment, whatever. We have those categories. However, like I mentioned, this is our first year.
Yes.
So all the CIP managers right now, they're kind of new to this. They try their best to put them in the category. And also put little comments on, you can see on the little comment area, the little box. Yeah. They try their best. However, we are kind of a little bit short on time. That's why right now they're still actually finishing those.
Yeah, that's why I was pushing back so that at the beginning that we need to push this process farther back to the year, because otherwise you guys are just running around. We're killing you.
Well,
so Jake, can I suggest a modification to that? I think the idea is good, but to keep us and maybe even city council above the fray of micromanaging,
right.
Maybe there's a dollar cutoff.
Perfect.
Where we get some information above $500,000, not for 50,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely not 50.
Did you have something to add, Martha? You okay?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking. I also liked the format this year a lot better. It was a lot
easier to understand. I'm wondering, now that you've given us this big box that seems to be, some people have put comments in. There was one comment that said, show me the money or something, which I don't quite know that they intended that to be there. But I'm just wondering, now that we have that big box, is there any way that we could have historical information, knowing it just seems to me all of a sudden we just all of a sudden don't need these capital expenditures. But if we knew historically that there'd been nothing done for 10 years or nothing done for, you know, however long a period of time, I just feel like, for example, living near Heritage Oaks Park, I feel like that playground equipment was just installed. It feels like it was just installed. So why is it showing up on CIP for the proposed 2023? So if someone had said, oh, it was 12 years ago that it was installed, I would like, oh, okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay. My comment is, I think what I'm hoping you're going to hear is at least from my standpoint, I'm going to highlight things if I see them, we're going to get a question from the public. So even if you don't know the answer tonight, we'll be prepared for it when you present this to the council.
So with that, I mean, your first page is, you know, do you want to just give some assumptions on some of the key things? I mean,
Point actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you must have a list of macro drivers that inform this when you didn't have better data.
Yeah, I think maybe we let you give a presentation.
Oh, you have a presentation?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
See this presentation? Or
I
was
try
it
to
not in the
put
packet?
as much information as I can.
Was it in the packet?
No,
Okay,
no,
all right,
no.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
will post online.
That's fine. I just thought I missed something.
No, yeah.
No worries. Okay, go for it.
Share screen. Do you go on with the share? Here we go. Now we have.
Is there a way to get rid of this
Yes.
bottom?
Shouldn't there?
So yeah, that or home, just press home, see what happens.
Maybe it'll go.
Oh,
Okay,
there.
there. Oh,
That's good. That's fine.
Oh,
Well, except
Wait, just-
but yeah.
Go to recent.
See the recent page first. Still home. There you go. No, no such. luck.
doesn't like that. Okay, that's fine. We'll figure it out. Let's go home again.
we'll go back.
Back.
Come on. It does not like that at all.
Sorry, never take advice from.
Never take advice from an engineer. Great.
Oh, here we go.
The people use it every day. There's so much more.
So this will be we do an annual operating budget and a 5-year, I changed the name, capital improvement and the major maintenance program, because I take your advice last time, those, you know, like the slurry seals should be beyond the maintenance and now belong to
So,
this.
but our policy is that we approve 2 years at a time. Our financial policy says we approve 2 years budget at a time.
Well, this year, because of the pandemic, and then we want to do like a 1 year.
I never understood the logic behind the 2 year anyway, so I think we should change that in our financial policy if you're up to it when we have a policy discussion, but that's what the policy says.
Yeah, we can make that recommendation and change to council. The reason we're recommending 1 year is just much easier for the council to manage, much easier, much more transparent.
Yeah, because then what happens in the second year, we just kind of are whacking the budget so much that people don't understand what's happening. It causes panic in year 2, right? Correct. And we call it mid-year budget review, and people are like, this isn't the year, this is the end of the year.
Page to the background information. So city implemented a zero-based budget. And we kick off the budget process on the March 9th. It should be in February, but because we implement OpenGov, the software, so it's a little bit behind, but we started March 9th. After that, all the executives have been meeting weekly to justify their expenditure proposals, not just for why, and also for how you get numbers. Finance, development services, park and recreation, police, and city managers, we all review the revenues, assumptions, how is it proper for the revenues. Also, the finance, public works, and the sustainability, utility, and the city management department will review the CIP
May I
program.
ask a question?
Yes.
When they do the justification, how is that done? Like, for example, for the city slurry, we use 3 bids and
Our purchasing policy is anything above, those are had to be go no formal bids. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, those are
No.
construction, anything with construction. has to-
I understand, but you usually do a budget based on a proposal that you've gone out and gotten at least some sort of budget numbers from your suppliers.
As a chicken or egg thing, you don't have a budget, how you gonna go about it?
Well, like, for example, if you're doing slurry, you probably do it by the mile. That's how I do it. You've got an estimate that, okay, you're gonna do this, you contact the supplier and say, what are your current rates for this? I think I'm gonna need
Not
that.
a bid, right?
It's not a formal bid, but it's so that you can budget it. So what I was trying to figure out is how do they base that on?
Normally, operation wise, anything above 5,000, we will refer to quotes. 10,000 is a formal quote. And then anything construction is a formal bid.
Okay.
Because those are have to go to city council approve the contract, but especially the slurry seal, those are big ones.
So you got a full RFP.
Yeah, for RP. So the recent one is, I believe, is still going, is that the project is 6.5 million. So those are-
Just wanted some clarification.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I believe there was information that said it was basically the dollars were budgeted and however you bid it,
Yep.
that's how many miles you would do. So they set the spending limit, not how much is gonna get done.
That's where the professional design come in, and then they will give an engineer estimate, and then based on that, you know, we're gonna publish the bid of scope of work.
Okay.
All right, so now we talk about the revenue. So total, the citywide revenue is 70.11 million. This number is not changed. Okay, so major revenues for the city are property taxes, utility user fee, charging for services, sales tax, license and permit. Those are about almost 80% of the total city's revenue. So property tax in turn is a 47% of the total city revenue. That includes all funds, even with utility user fee is the sewer fee. Those are different funds.
Sorry, the 71 is that number?
Yeah,
Not 53 that we have in our package.
She's got other funds rolling into that.
yeah, it's all funds.
All
That's-
funds.
Yeah, we're talking about all citywide revenue, yes, right now.
So June, could you just go back to that slide again?
Okay. All right, yeah, right here, yes.
So is your total at the top supposed to equal your total at the bottom?
Oh, sorry, typo 71.11, yes,
Okay, thanks.
sorry.
So everything is in the general fund except enterprise.
There is enterprise fund mainly is for utility user fees, also special revenue like the traffic impact fees. And the public art fees,
Licensing.
yeah, and the parking fee. Like I mentioned, the property taxes is the major revenue for us. They include the secure property taxes, unsecured supplemental, homeowner tax relief, ERAF, and the document transfer tax. So we did a 2% flat, like a really conservative estimate, which is 33.3 million this year.
That's what you got from this outside agency?
Yes, yes.
Well, I think
Thank you. Yeah.
they think property tax will be only a 2% growth.
Yes. That's kind of flat. It's even,
With us, I mean, that we could reach that just by number of people dying, not even sales per any other reason. No, I'm not. Yeah, that's the reason why there's just come on the circuit in the city, right?
True. I was drinking at the.
it is very conservative for sales tax, yes. For the property.
Yeah, but you
tax.
should be conservative. If you,
It's a big swing factor and
true, but you'd rather be conservative and have more money than be aggressive and have less. We come up with more revenue. That's a good thing.
document transfer taxes.
You gotta be accurate.
Chunk the variables.
When was the last time we had a 2% growth? Probably 2008.
Not you are going into a very soft economy with very high interest rates. Right. And a lot of people don't have stock options to buy. I mean, except for NVIDIA, of course.
So the HDL was assuming a slowdown, pretty aggressive slowdown on new property sales. Based on the increasing interest rate. They did say it was a conservative estimate, but they had also noted that they had adjusted some of their assessments down as they went later in the year. So we feel comfortable entering HDL numbers because it's what they do for a living. Okay. And if they can adjust it up at the end, that's okay with us.
They have to have some backsliding assessments in there because they have the 2% Prop 13. So if nothing changed and everybody had grown out from under it, you'd be at 2%. So,
right.
Okay.
We haven't had a 2% year in probably over a decade.
Yeah, but we've gone from almost 0% interest rate.
We've had a recession much bigger than this before.
But we haven't seen rates rise this rapidly. Rates rose very rapidly in a very short period of time. I don't think
conservatives guys are basically saying big picture, the pops are going to get offset by some recent buyers who are going to backslide a little bit. But seems reasonable, and they do it real bit, but probably conservative.
Yeah, sure it is.
Also, the largest one, of course, is the sewer fee, right? So this is estimated by the NBS based on the survey study. And the third biggest category is a charge for services, which is done by the development service departments based on, the housing or economic development projects, permitting, all that. So there's listed like plan review fee, engineer review fee, traffic impact fee, review parkland fee, public art fees, inspection fees, and other fees. Those are included in the charge for services. So our third biggest category for the city.
License and permits. Were we expecting that to go down over last year? Yes, year, right?
I can explain that because of if you look historical chart, I don't have the chart in here, but we had like really nothing, and during the pandemic. This year we actually have really high projections because of we're catching up all those projects during the pandemic, but next year it's going to slow down because the projects are done this year. Yes, that's why what we say is conservative, right? So that's where
conservative's never bad. It really isn't. If we end up with more money, oh darn.
Yes.
Yeah, that's conservative is good.
So sales tax is also estimated by HDL and the Economic Development Services. This one also we estimate really flat. I want to mention here the city's 9.125 sales tax rate is only 1% actually come to the city. It's a Bradley Burns. Residents will either go to state or go to counties.
It comes back from the county some other way, but
yeah. So we're at 1%.
So license is going down. Sure.
Also, that's going down. This you can tell this one we got like 3.99 estimated for this year. Same thing, this was catching up for the 21, 22 during the pandemic. And next year we'll see the slowdown, which is 3.32, also really conservative estimate on this one.
I think you're being wise.
Okay.
Now we're talking about expenditures.
$10 bet that we will have more than 4% in our
and I hope you're right.
I hope you're right. But right now, during budget time, we want to be here. Yeah, total city's expenditures is 97.27 million. This includes operating for 65.04 million and a 32.23 for the CIP. So the cost of the salary and benefit is a 44.9% of the total operating budget, with 65.04 based on that number. I want to point out the non-negotiable, those are 37.26 million, which is up to 57% of our operating expenditures. There's some high shows. You can tell the salary benefit 44.9. The insurance will be the next one, be 3.36%. Which is a 2.19 million, and gasoline and all those are we have to pay. CalPERS UAL, which is 3.24 million. With that service is the 1.02. Those are absolutely we have to pay. Those are non-negotiable, the operating, the fixed cost.
Isn't it really when you break out gasoline and all? Is that?
We do, well, we had to rent a car.
No, but what, I mean, it's hardly anything. It's $170,000 and a $70 million budget.
Yeah, we have a Prius. So
I think the suggestion is just to round up.
Yeah, round that up.
Under like 2%, put them together.
Yeah.
yeah. So those are
Professional services. Can you talk a little bit about what's in that line?
professional service, those are big contract like design consultant, all the consultant we're using. Also, one big thing, the fire contractors also. I could include that as a fixed.
Oh, that's the professional. Oh, that's got
That
that
is
most
fire.
If that is fire, that's got to be. most.
Yeah, that's citywide. Yes, that's include fire.
How is that paid? Is that paid on a yearly basis, a monthly basis?
It's a monthly basis. Yes,
Okay.
set amount every month. Yes.
Okay.
Is it, I mean, I know we renegotiated a few years ago. Is it up for renegotiation?
I believe in 2026.
Yes.
It's 6. Okay. So we know what that fixed amount is.
Roughly out of that 42% services, what would fire be at? It's
Well, like those small, we have a maintenance, they hire some kind of to fix the tree shrub or, mow the lawn. Those we call other services. We don't call them professional services.
okay.
Stuff like that. Yeah, small things.
Fire's like 7, 8,
First,
Right.
yeah.
9.
Nine.
That's 90% of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
9 million.
That's why.
Oh, 9 million out of that is fire.
Out of
Okay.
23, yes, it's fine.
And when you say it's CIP approved at 32, this is,
Oh, those are actually say proposed CIP, it's not, it's
that's like,
approved. Yeah,
multi-year
32.23, yes, those are proposed CIP,
proposed CIP. Okay,
yes.
okay, that was kind of confusing me.
I also mentioned utility from the internet. Utility is a big factor on this one. It's over $1 million. This for PG&E and then, Comcast and all that. So
Yeah. I assume most of that's PG&E.
I know it's a PG&E, yes.
Yeah.
I have one utility PG&E bill is increase 200,000 in one department.
I can believe it. I've seen our PG&E bills.
Same thing, water. Water is also very expensive as well.
Straight up.
So where does OPEB show up in this? In,
We now contribute OPEC this year because we're 104% funding already. So that's only you see the UAL in there.
okay.
UAL with unfounded liability, yes. We're gonna roll out my next slides. So we do have increase at six new FTEs. City manager's office, we're gonna gain 1 office assistant, development services. There's gonna be a housing manager for the housing elements. Park recreation gonna increase 1 FTE for facility attendant coordinator for running the program. Human resource, we actually city switched the payroll function to the human resource department. They will gain a payroll technician over there. Public safety, there was 1 emergency operation coordinator. This is supposed to be split with Los Altos Hills. That position. Environmental services utility, there was will be a senior engineer, but that's under sewer funds. Rest is all gonna be general fund, and then the last one is sewer funds.
On the senior engineer for sewer, they're going to overview the project with Commonwealth and all that. Okay.
So your city manager office added a person, but your total budget for that line went down from 6.3 to 5.4.
Yes. Like I said, we do, yeah. Mhm. We project,
We always ask for the split up.
we're not gonna go into a detail about legal, but this
Okay.
year, just by number wise, yes, we decreased the legal, by the way, that's mainly that 900,000 came from. Yeah.
It would be nice, Bill, to see what's in that legal budget. Perhaps we could have that and have it confidential.
That's fine.
So now we talk about general fund. I would say we have finally a surplus for $240,000. So we project the budgeted revenue for 53.67 million.
Sorry, so general fund surplus of only $240,000? This is
It
what's
was-
enrolled to our CIP for next year? This is 240?
No, this is after we contribute $1.5 million to the fiscal policy reserves. So really it's a 1.74 million. If you see that line right there is 1.74, but we had to meet the 20% fiscal policy requirement.
Yeah.
That's on the right side, which is 10 million. Currently, we are in 8.7 million. That's why we contribute 1.5. after 1.5, we leave us a surplus of $240,000.
Yeah, so my question is, normally our revenue over expenses, what funds our CIP for the next year? So you're saying that for FY 25, we're only gonna add $240,000 to our CIP budget?
No, this year we're 24 fiscal year, this next fiscal year.
Yeah, next fiscal year, so 25, 24, right?
We actually have about $8 million in the
That we have, but
CIP
we
projects.
normally contributed a couple of million.
But this year
dollars
we're in 24, we're not contributing anything from general fund to the CIP fund.
Okay, so that's very important to highlight. I mean, that's a major stumbling block for a CIP chain, right?
How we did CIP this year is gonna be different than we've done it historically. So we've done a thing called prior appropriation here. And we roll everything forward and it's tied to the budget, but it's not tied to a project, it's not tied to expense. And we were finding this is well documented, a lot of the public's presentations we've given. We found that over time, the funds were not necessarily used for what they were supposed to be used for. Or we would say we would do a project and get reimbursement for it. By the time the funds came, we couldn't get reimbursement. So when you do prior appropriation, the only thing you're supposed to carry forward is obligated funds or contracted funds. We were carrying everything forward. So what we did in the zero-based budget, one of the reasons it took so long is we de-obligated all of the funds in the capital, 100% of them that weren't contractually obligated to be spent. And then we made each director go through, create a new budget, a new project, a new cost, and determine where those expenditures were going to come from. So what you'll see is not CIP funds rolling over moving forward. We'll do rollovers no more than 60 days past June 30 or July 1.
Yeah.
And we won't carry over any funds that are not obligated. So June will have a slide to talk about the $2 million and $4 million liabilities that we've established here. She'll get to that, but so that's why you're seeing the change in how we're doing it moving forward.
Okay. I think we also asked for this change in the financial policy, that the definition of CIP is very, not just because it's weird. I mean, there are things in there that should be considered operating expense items. If you look at our CIP list for the city, there are some things that are actually capital. So I think we are going to fix that in the policy, but it's good to see it fixed in the budget also.
Yes, and you're correct. So we should make a distinguishment between a capital investment and capital expenditure. What's maintenance, what's operations. We should be able to tell council what's one-time versus ongoing, both on the expenditure and the revenue side. We haven't done any of that historically, and that's how we find ourselves where we are sitting here today. Right. So lots of changes in how we're moving forward, implementing all the suggestions from this commission and best practices from GFOA and other organizations.
That's why I changed a little bit wording in the CIP definition, take out the maintenance part separately with a give a definition of the maintenance. Actually in CIP, it's not included in this package, but in the final package, we actually have one schedule, just separate what is actually is the capital project, what is the maintenance project.
So I think it's very important to highlight that we're talking about capital expenses, maintenance and stuff that can be covered in the budget, like you have the approved 33 million. But any kind of capital investment in long-term assets that we have to save every year to get to that, right? So this year we're already saving $200,000 towards that.
Yes, you guys got it. Yep.
So this was
So just before you leave it, because I think that's where you start, right? So in other words, excuse me, to fund capital this year, you're going to burn cash.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What we used to call capital is really assets that need maintenance. So it's maintenance. That's where we burn cash on that. Yeah.
So the burn cash, so that how that's happening is where we get to all the end of all these prior appropriations going back 6-7 years. What we are funding is items that were approved in the budget that had no money associated with them, and expenditures that didn't have approval.
Yes.
So that's how we're getting to the 2 million and the 4 million and liability on the slide. So we're not burning cash to fund future capital. We're burning the cash to fund what the city's committed to over the course of 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, so I get all that, but big picture here, you're going to draw your cash balance down. Okay.
Yes. So,
That's why it's a $90-some million budget. We've never seen a $90 million budget before.
Well, we don't have 90 million in revenue, so. Balance sheet. Okay.
this one is, yes, so we have a 70 in the revenue and a 90, actually include the CFP that will be 90, but if without the CFP, actually we're good, you know. So physical, this is the summary of the general fund transfers or allocations, I would say, because the physical policy reserve and the facility reserve, those are stay in the general fund. So it's separate from unassigned balance to the assigned balance.
The dental fund is for the whole staff or just like, yeah, must be the whole staff.
Yeah, the whole staff, yes. OPEB and then the dental funds, technology funds, liability funds, and those are internal services funds.
Yeah.
Because I separate them out as internal services because so sewer fund can contribute their share before it's all general fund contribute even the dental expenses.
Okay, it's important, but just I know we've done this before, but this is a big change in terms of how we look at things. We're getting rid of funds for this internal service funds. Can you just spend 1 minute on this change because it's important because you cannot compare apples to oranges with other budgets because of this transition. Correct. Right. So can you say 2 words about why internal service funds? I know we've done this before. So.
The internal service funds, because we have enterprise funds, so that should be contributed both. For example, for dental, so employee actually like that sewer engineer, we don't add it all. Her dental expense should be contributed from the dental funds, right? So in the past, we all contribute from the general fund. That's why I separate internal service fund. So both general fund and the enterprise fund can contribute to the funds. Same thing for CalPERS unfunded liability. Same thing for you know, if we want to make additional payment to PERS. Those are give us the ability to actually contribute from both sides, both funds. It's just the general fund.
The commission will remember we spent a lot of time last year talking about the establishment of the internal service funds, why we were doing it, how the city had been using the general fund balance as a piggy bank, but not paying it back over time. So this is the outcome of all the decisions we had last year.
Equipment.
And sorry, so that means now, Gabe, when you think about it, these other functions, this will be domination, will cease to be underburdened, right? That you'll push to them like they also do.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a type 1 equipment replacement fund is not internal service fund, but it works as the same way as internal service fund. For example, this year we will have a big backhoe machine for the sewer only. So sewer was able to contribute the $500,000 into the equipment replacement funds or to buy that equipment. So also with us, if we general fund also contribute more just in case, you know, police need to replace the vehicle. Right now we don't have a fleet plan, but it's coming. So those are for just put it in there for be ready. It's a work at the same way as internal service funds.
Do we know the average age of our police cars?
Oh, we do, yeah. I'll have to pull it up, but we don't have a fleet plan yet, but we've done the evaluation of all of our vehicles, including public safety, and we've made recommendations for when they should be replaced by hours, mileage, or use. So I do have that information. PD vehicles are pretty good. They've been taken care of over time. It's all the non-public safety that has really suffered.
For the PERS and OPEB, I want to remark on this one since we have made the 5 million and the 1.5 million into CalPERS already. So right now we are at 2 classification, 2 is at the 76 and 77%. The other 3 classification is at the 104%. So we are almost there. That's why I don't want to contribute like before, like 5 million there because we almost there 100% funded. Yeah, we are getting there.
So is that 500 voluntary, that discretionary?
And it's on the PERS side, not the OPEB side, right?
Right.
OPEB side.
Yeah. OPEB, we're already 104%, so we don't need to contribute anything.
You don't want to be 104%.
So that was about 1.5 million last year.
That's fine. Okay.
We don't have fund liabilities for pension.
So we do have city council approve the several organizations for the contribution from the general fund. So that this approved the May 23rd city council meeting. So we have a community health awareness council, community service agency, Los Altos Chambers of Commerce, Los Altos Historical Museum, and the Women's SB.
What did this add up to?
I would have to pull that up. I can real quick. I'll give you the answer.
Under $250,000, right?
Oh, yeah, yes, we are.
150,000.
Yeah, it wasn't that much. No.
So it's not saying.
About 60, 70, something like that.
67.5 for the chamber. 60 for the history museum.
Women's SB was 20.
20 for Women's SD.
CSA, I think, was 20, 25. Okay.
Yeah, so we might be at 160.
Check was 60. Check was 62.
Oh, I forgot that. So 220.
Yeah.
The history museum, I thought it was not done.
History Museum is funded at 55, or 65 for the contract, and then 55 pending review, but it's in the budget, but it's not been awarded.
So in the notes that you sent out,
Yeah.
it shows that police is flat, but public works went down quite a lot. Is there a reason why public works is going down?
Well, that's the another thing where this is accounting, say it this way. So one is accounting regrouping because we have a rework. The public work actually is a new department, so that it's not really compared apple to apple at the one point. And then also there is one thing we changed accounting wise. It is for those example for plan review, and then we are hiring a consultant to doing the review, or maybe the building permit review. I can't remember which one, the plan check fee. So we do hire a consultant, we will retain like 60% of the permit fee as a revenue, and 40% gonna come back to the consultant, pay the consultant. And before we reported the whole payment as a revenue permit fee. And then 40% is as expenditures. So now this year we're changing that because we think that's inflating the expenditure, also inflating the revenue that way. So we set up a performance and deposit account. So we only estimate the revenues in there for that 60%, and the rest because it's a wash. So
You're not over recording.
So there's no change in. So
Not
none
really.
of these departments bang your door down, so they want more money. They're pretty flat.
No.
Well, they started. They started, but they ended pretty flat.
Congratulations.
Yes. So that's why we do zero-based budget, because they had to show us why they need the money and how they get the number. So they had to justify that, yes.
Very good. That's.
Yeah, so not disputing the buildup. Here's when I looked at this, the puzzle I can't work my way through, which is more than half of this is salary and wage. You took that line up 8%. That doesn't shock me. My guess is it's 5-6% on the wage line and more on the benefit line. You kind of get there. And then you only take police up 400 grand, which I would have thought is a heavy people spend in there. So I'm trying to figure out where you got back if you had to move 8% on wages. So it must have been external spend and some other stuff. Just that when I think about getting it to McKinsey quadrant of how it folds together, right? It just seemed like once you move salary and wages 8%, how do you get money back elsewhere?
One thing we did also differently this year is because the Gatsby 96 implementation for the softwares. So we use the technology fund to tracking all of the software subscriptions in that nature. So those are normally in the departmental, and then now it's moved out to a separate fund. That's why you see there is a transfer from general fund to technology funds for $262,000. That's actually represent
All the
licensing fees, that nature. And then also we found another 500,000 just in case there is some more like servers need to be replaced or some stuff like that.
So I think what you say big picture is,
yeah,
you really do have more core spend inflation than this shows, and you push some of the spend into other places.
Well, I think when we went through line by line, the idea of a zero-based budget is not to reduce expenditures, it's to find areas that are over-resourced and move them to areas that are under-resourced. So when you go through the police budget line by line, for example, they had numerous 20, 40,000, 10,000 line items that they had not expended before, or they had budgeted 25,000 in the last 3 years have expended 7,000, 2,000, 4,000. So we would take those and put them into areas that we wanted to resource. So you're getting a flat budget that should increase the efficiency of the dollars that we're investing.
Got to be getting a bunch of back on external spend.
Yeah.
People, inherent people then for the whole show when you put the whole thing together.
Well, I think we've not had.
Yeah, okay. You say who knows what you get when you look at each line.
You squeeze 4 or 5% somewhere. For the 80% increase on 50% of the properties that you took it away somewhere else. So.
We still got our big journey actually also from professional services. This year, we are trying to recruit all of the talents or retain the talents in the organization. So example for the finance department, I used to have hire outside consultant for 500, 300, that's like easy. But this year, my consultant cost is like less than about 60,000 or 100,000, that max that way. So for one consultant, it's example for Bailey, think about how much we use them for everything, but not because we're fully staffed, we're not using those.
Right, God bless you.
So those are.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Try to be there. But if you look on the general fund expenditure summary, that attachment, you will see actually our city's salary benefits increased almost $2 million. Those are based on the negotiated MOUs with the bargaining group as well. And with that additional 5-6 positions. Now we talk about CFP.
Yeah.
5 years total, 86.42 million.
So June, before you get to the CIP, can I just ask a question? Are legal fees included in the general fund, coming out of the general fund?
Yes, it's in the city manager's departments, yes.
So are those flat for the year, or are they year over year, or are they increasing, or what?
I think we decreased to 1.4 million.
They increased to 1.4. Decreased.
Yeah, because if you look at Gabe's budget, it came way down.
Even though
Okay.
it was added ahead, but its budget went down.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So one last question, just as a line here, I can't
Yes.
make any sense out of. Then you go to 50. The interest income line makes no sense to me. Yeah, because it's a negative, and then it's a number, and then it's a number that falls.
Yeah.
But as long as it's right, it's right. It's just you look at it.
Yes.
I get a third eye in the middle of my head, and I can't make sense.
I know. I mean, I look at that, it's very the eyesore on that one too. However, the interest income in 21-22, we were recognized almost this. You look at here is this general fund citywide, so we almost have $1.5 million paper loss. We call it unrealized gain or loss. Those were, however, reported as the revenue loss into the financial statements, but before. And we only recognize those on the balance sheets as fair market value adjustments.
Oh,
So
it's a mark to market.
Yeah, it's a market.
So it was a
yes.
paper loss that didn't
Yes.
really exist because when the bond matures, it goes.
Yes. I did 300,000 conservative because we don't know what's the market right now. We do have realized gain or loss, so that's very conservative. I just use the
But we
300,000.
hold very short-term bonds, so we're just gonna wait them out. So they're not real losses.
Right. I mean, you're gonna do.
Yeah,
better
the
than that.
negative.
You're gonna do better than that line. And then the grants thing, the feds are in those two big numbers, right? That 3.6 is the feds. So. All right, see it.
So before we go to CIP, anybody have any more line item issues? Or do you have any more line item things on the budget? Okay, Mark?
My only question, I don't know if it's here or when we get into the capital, is in your EOC, you've got a park and loo contribution of 600,000. What's the linkage between park and loo?
So when we built the community center, we built it to run a generator powered. We never installed that generator. we'd like to install that generator now. So we're putting in the EOC project because there's benefit to having one person design and put it in there. But the benefit of that generator is not the EOC, it's for
The community center.
the community center.
Okay, so you can use part of the new funds for it.
Yeah, the expensive generator.
Yeah, it's a big building.
Yes.
That's what I was, yeah, the hook up the laundry machine.
Yeah.
The community center.
We have that one.
For that kids.
Yeah, the next time when PGA have a power outage, everybody can go to the community center to get, as a shelters or something, that way. So if we have that expensive generator.
Like a 10-bang Tesla wall. You see those Christmas lights through power. Nice. It's kind of like several months of power. Okay,
Alright,
anybody else
so-
any on the budget before we move to
What's the
CIP?
operating budget at this point before we move on to CIP? I only have like a couple slides on CIP in here.
Sorry, so just on the staffing,
Mhm.
so you are fully staffed or you are ramping, you have that four or five you showed us, are gonna come in over the year kind of thing.
Oh,
That's it.
those are recruiting starting July 1. Right now, of course, they're not. Those are new positions.
Starting July.
Yeah.
So you kind of brought them in over the many months in the budget.
Yes, after city council approves the positions, we will start the recruiting process.
And that's it, nobody else is asking for it. So,
We had a lot more requests than positions we filled. So if you look at the positions that are in there, the position in recreation is attached to revenue. So we keep the community center open longer, it's revenue neutral, they bring revenue in, so that got funded. The housing element manager, or the housing manager's requirement of the housing element the council approved. There will be a fee nexus study coming forward, so we're hoping that's offset by some revenue. The position we're calling in the city manager's office is actually council support position. We're trying to split the EOC position with the Hills. We couldn't afford the full freight on that one. But we had easily 12 or more positions requested by the directors of these segments.
so let's say I'm right, and you owe me $10. We have 4% growth in our property tax, and you get $600,000-700,000 more, or maybe even $1 million.
Is that what you're making, 4% over and under? Can anybody have that action?
I was gonna say, it's not enough to say more than 2%.
Yeah, no, he's giving you the ball. Over and under 4.
So do you have like hey, if we get more money, we can do more things in this fiscal year already lined up, or you would have to go back to the drawing board and everybody's in a mad scramble?
Yeah, so when we look in future years, we still have a small structural deficit. We haven't done the analysis appropriately on one-time versus ongoing expenditures, or been able to determine long-term one-time versus ongoing revenue in kind of a way that I'm comfortable with. So what we're presenting is, assuming council doesn't make changes, we're saying is the budget we're going to try and stick to this year. However, recognizing that changes are going to happen to this budget almost immediately after it's adopted, because that's how it goes. But we wouldn't anticipate adding positions that weren't included in the budget unless there's some type of.
So if you get money, you're going to use it somewhere else, not people.
Correct.
Okay, so just not a fixed cost increase, but pay off something that's.
We're always good with one-time expenditures. We're much more careful with ongoing.
This is ongoing.
That's what I want. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anything on the budget? No? Okay, CIP.
Right, CIP, well, I don't have two slides. One is by this chart is showing by the funding source. The total 5-year span with budget is 86.42 million, but for this 24 fiscal year is 32.23 million. General fund category, I say the prior years on the chart. Actually, those are carry over from this 2024 fiscal year, 23 fiscal year, and also include the technology funds on this one. It's general fund select technology funds for carry over 1.31, and then also the 24, the new request is 8.21 million. That's included, we're just talking about the EOC project and also the City Hall expansion for Lacey Building. That's a big one.
I'm sorry, I lost you. So could you just describe what's in gas? What do you mean by gas and road?
Gas and road is gas tax, the special revenue fund, SB1 money, and
Okay.
Measure B.
Okay,
Those are VRF. Those are
okay, so that's the
From different
44,020,000.
yes.
And you're saying in the prior years, I don't know which year you would be at.
So those are just this year's carryover.
Also, okay, so
Yeah.
this year, in that prior year column, all of our money came from the enterprise fund and CIP?
The 9.68, those are actually because the Palo Alto, they do carry over. They don't do by our fiscal year. So those are what it is, carry over from this fiscal year to the next. Yes.
It seems like an error, right? I don't think we have enterprise funds, that much now in CIP.
No, that's not right. Those are sewer periods, i.e. those projects, yes. So if the list is on your the attachment for the page 8 of the 78, so that will showing the sewer projects over there. So you will see the carryover from prior year is 8.78 million and the current year is 2.5. The list of the projects for the detail.
June, in fiscal year 25, there's grants and RSP, which goes up quite a bit. What grants?
Yes, those are San Antonio. Again, the grants with the coal bank come from that's federal grants. We
Okay,
just get we just get an award for that one.
So we have been awarded that?
Yes, we're gonna go to city council on the June 13th, that meeting as well. The $6 million.
So, okay, I can't rationalize prior years to FY24, so I'm just gonna drop my confusion about prior years. So FY24, you're saying there's 8 million in our CIP fund now, which
Yes.
is a number that we all been kind of
Yeah.
have in our head. And there's 6.5 in an enterprise fund,
Yes,
still in the new definition of enterprise fund.
it's a sewer projects.
It's
So-
just a sewer fund,
Yeah, so
okay, just that one.
yeah, that's that one. Yeah.
So
No,
we have 6.5 in sewer,
Mhm.
8 million in and then gas tax and roads. We can only use on gas and road, right? We can't.
transportation, we have, like I mentioned, the gas tax, SB1, TDAs, Measure B, and then VRF funds.
But
They
they're
always say
but they're
80%.
restricted, right? You can only use them
Yeah,
on
only-
transportation.
Yes,
So it's a color in the general CIP bucket.
so that's special revenue funds, yes.
Okay, so it's a little misleading to throw that into a CIP funding, because our CIP bucket is all over the map. Well,
This is the citywide, all projects inclusive, yeah.
Because this is just targeted funds. So like, for example, if you're doing roads, I assume you could use gas tax for road slurry.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But before we leave this on the general fund CIP shows
Mhm.
the fundamental point we kind of started with, which is unless something moves, that fund runs off. Essentially, you're going to the balance sheet for cash and not restoring.
Yes.
The second set of numbers I don't understand, but I may misunderstand it. If the enterprise fund is the sewer fund.
Yeah.
And I thought that sewer rate proposal showed
17.
the accumulation of significant cash in the anticipation it would be spent. So it doesn't, and I may misunderstand, but it doesn't align with how I understood that to say that number is kind of just static in the 5-6 million, because I thought it was systematically being built up
Yeah.
in the anticipation of a draw, and in essence, trying to avoid, 8%, 8%, 8%, 20%.
Yeah.
And they essentially straight line that out for about 5 years.
Yeah. But I
So-
thought we started off much bigger than that. I thought it started off with 12 or something, and then we were thinking double it is what we need, or 17, and had to go to 34 or something like that. I think
Yeah,
it's-
those are just by the funding source, all right, those are by the sewer fund will chip it in for our sewer fund chip it in, but regarding the expenditures, also, if that's where you'll go through. I don't want to go too deeper over the sewer rate study, because we do have a fund balance. When the Palo Alto gave us like a $20 million bill, so we will dip into the fund balance plus this year's contribution. So what's presented here is just what we think every year is gonna for the regular projects. And if the bills come in
So,
more higher. we
okay,
will
you and I,
need to
Tony,
come
are
back.
completely off. This is expenditure.
It's not the balance.
It's not the balance
No.
of the fund.
No, this is just the.
This is expenditure per
Yeah.
year. Okay, so you're gonna spend about 6.5 on sewer. Although we have more money than that in that fund.
Yes.
But, okay. so
And
that-
also, like I said, the nine million there is right now, we have the ongoing project, we haven't paid yet, it's ongoing, they will gonna pay,
So-
that's it was carried
So
over.
this adds up to about 20-ish for FY 24.
15.
But I thought we have a $33 million proposal.
So there's a different one proposal, this is not really tied to anything about the sewer study, this is just all the funding sources, what we contribute. We might hire in 24 if the Colorado send us the bill, but we don't know what their schedule, when they're gonna do it, you know.
The 33 number you have in your budget for, are you seeking approval? for
Yeah,
CIP?
32.
That's a rolled up number.
With the prior years and then the 24 fiscal year both. Except not include the sewer funds, no. It's only, oh no, sorry, it's include the sewer funds, yes.
You see my question that this adds up to about 20. For FY
No,
24.
it should be,
8 plus 6, 14, 21, 22 and a half. 18 too. That's not 20.
also the prior years.
No, I'm talking about FY 24.
The 32 million is include the carryover.
It includes carryover.
Carryover from this fiscal year to the next one. To the next 24. So include the 9 million, include the 1.31, include the 0.42. Remember, we just mentioned this year we try defunding all the projects and reallocate the money. But those money, I separate out as a prior year to carry over because of the project still going on.
I think as a city, do we have the capacity to do $30 million for projects? I don't think so.
We don't really do sewer. Sewer, it is the,
No, sewer is one, but I mean. We really think we can do 13 plus 8, 21 million in general fund CIP project in a year.
yeah, if you look at general fund, the 8 million, the two major projects is already, 5 million for the city hall expansion and then 2.5 for the EOC. Those are already almost 8 million. Only thing, the big one, another one is the general plan update for $500,000. So those three things that come together is already almost $8 million just from general fund. A lot of our
We can finish those two in the year. You think?
the general plan update, it is ongoing. So those are, we try to finish. By this moment, we have we don't know actually. I can't tell if we're gonna finish. I hope. So I have
So
moved to
the 13 we're carrying over to make 33 is in the general fund line? Is
No,
all in general-
32 is the whole funds. It's only 8 million, 8.21 plus that 1.31. That is a general fund / also include the technology funds. So technology funds also funded by the general fund. So it's about 9.5 million.
So, I mean, if the question is if we can do it, yeah, a lot of what we're doing here is designing corrosion control or sewer pipe replacements. Those would be our two biggest projects, probably up somewhere around 8 to 10 million. And then we bid that contract out, same as we just did a major street resurfacing project. And O'Grady won the contract and they completed it. It would be a sewer company contractor completing corrosion control at 5 million for the year, or pipe replacement at 3 million for the year.
Yeah, the slurry seal or that whole resurfacing project was like 6.7 million a month. It's ongoing right now, still ongoing. Those are
So we do it every year.
yes,
We're required to as a master.
sure master plan.
How many miles can they do for 6?
That I do not.
My own number, my own number back in like
Because that would be an interesting number to know, because we know how many miles we have straight.
The problem is you have to be able to predict oil prices to know the answer. That's the
Yeah.
principle.
True.
so And also depend on what you do. Reconstructions, different ways of slurry seal. A slurry seal, you can $1 million can do a lot of miles, but reconstruction, you probably just do like a half miles for $1 million. So that's all depending on what you do.
I was just trying to look at some sort of what's the current job. So
to go back to your, so how do these then get funded every year? So this is going to be FY 25, 26, you have all these projections. What are they running from? What is the basis of?
Right now, the operating wise, those are just the plan for 5 years. Currently, we do, like example for the special revenue funds, those are the major funding sources, especially the street projects. Those are we actually doing review year by year to see what's the cost that's going to be. Like the prices increase, decrease like really dramatically because of the pandemic. So that's why we review this every year also as well.
So this is your estimate of what you're going to spend in each of those funds over the next 4 years.
That's a projection. Only the funding was funded by all the funding source. It's just a prior year, that column, and then the 24 column, because we only do 23, 24 up to the June 30, 24. Those funds is already yet set in the schedule.
So 24 is funded, fully funded.
Yep.
And after that, the money is going to come from that revenue over expense line again that we were talking about?
When we're doing next year's budget, 25 budget season, we will review the revenues and the expenditures and see how much we can do for the 25. We might have to, some of the project, hopefully we can finish, the EOC. So that's a one-time expense. So we don't have to pay another 2.5 million. Those are going to, so it might be just to do what's remaining of leftover this year, or maybe we have a new ones come in, but that will be for 25 fiscal years, when we do the annual budget for that one. But right now, currently, all the 24 and the prior years is all funded.
So this 86 number is an addition of all of these up to
that we're done with CNP? It's a 5 years.
Our whole wish list is done in 5 years?
Well, the further you get to the right, the less certain you are on both projects, expenditures, and your estimates. I mean, our CIP realistically is not going to go down each year over 5 years, but what this budget is showing you is that we're focused on the major capital projects right in front of us. Lacey, the EOC mainly next year, in addition to the streets and sewers. That's 65–70% of everything we're going to do next year. So as we move forward, new projects will come in, but we've tried to get away from the idea of if it was in the budget in 2016 and we didn't do it, 2017 we didn't do it, we're just going to stop carrying it forward, because realistically we're probably not going to do it. But if we are going to do it, it has to live on its own and get put back in the budget. So that this is reflecting taking out a lot of projects that realistically are just not going to happen.
Yeah, this is a memorial. You can see compared to last year's, last approved the budget, the general fund funding the project is a lot less this year, because we're thinking about what exactly we can do, accomplish.
What's driving the city hall expansion budget?
To Lacey,
we run out of space.
We've got, I think, 3/4 of our workforce share offices. We have a good portion of our workforce don't have an office or fixed desk space. They carry their computer around and find a hard surface and set it down. We've had to rotate people in offices. So if someone's office Monday and Wednesday, someone else's Tuesday and Thursday, and they'll both be there on Fridays. So there's plan after plan showing City Hall was not capable to handle the workforce going back to the 90s, the 80s. So our solution was, let's convert a 70-year-old building and call that good, because it's 20% of the cost of what the solutions offered.
That's right. Yeah, so it's not a building that's going to be erected between.
No, it'll be converting Lacey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not for
percentage of people work from home.
So work from home is mainly, I think we only have 2 employees citywide that work from home permanently. If you are an executive or manager class, you're eligible to work from home up to 50% of the time, which has really helped with the office space battle we just talked about. But it's based on your needs. So my direct reports as an example, I think I only have one person that works 50% of the time remotely. The rest of the time they're here 80%, 90% of the time.
My senior accountant actually is the one that work completely remote because there is no space in the office.
She was 150%. Yeah.
What? Yeah. It balances out. Average inches down here.
Yes.
So June, I think that is great, except for this slide. I'm not sure exactly what you're going to tell the council when you bring this up. So I got a little lost on this slide. So maybe you can just focus on the message and
Lisa Berg would think the two of us looked at the slide and headed off in entirely
different
wrong
directions.
directions.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Especially since you cannot explain prior years to the next year. So maybe just
And
just have some bullets about what you want to say about CIP as opposed to showing these charts. They're really misleading. Or
to me, at the end of the day, Gabe, you got to get another budget. So it's really a sources and uses question rather
Yes.
than splitting it in two pieces. Sources, uses, and where does the balance, you go into the balance sheet or do you have it coming from the general fund? And it's pretty hard to figure out here.
yeah, finance discussion, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
We got it from here, we put it here,
One comment on that last slide.
Mhm.
Please don't try to explain that to the public.
Okay.
Don't put that slide in the package of the council. You'll spend 4 hours on it.
Based on that feedback, you should just skip the slide.
I would just do a bullet point. And then,
I'm sort of fixated on that 86 million number, but that's just it's a random number. It's not a relevant number to a financial discussion. It's a wish list number from CIP projects that may never happen. So I think we can kind of bury that number and not make it a number that people take away from. That we have $86 million worth of projects lined up for the next 5 years, which is not true.
okay. I should use just this year's, the 24. Take the 25, 26, 27.
Yeah, that's a much more relevant number, right?
Yes,
That's
it is.
spend
It is.
22 or $24 million on massive projects this year.
So, sure.
Okay, I think CIP has always been sort of in every budget to kind of nail.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad that you like the new formatting of the presentation page for the CIP.
That was all Jim's too. For the record.
that was very nice.
Try to explain more on the page, give more information, put more boxes in there.
So what it really reflects is a great change in the way we used to do things.
It does.
To this, it really does. And this is like it's real. It's not a wish list of department heads of I want $1 million for something. I'm not sure what yet. That's where we started. So it really is reflected. And maybe emphasize that there is a tremendous change in this, and that's close to what you think reality is, as opposed to I want more money. Right. And money that's in pockets, I don't know what for. So
I had another question, but just since we are getting rid of cleaning up, why do we have a storm drain fund when it's not like $10? And
No.
Why did this get rid of it?
No, we're not gonna have a storm drain fund. This is one of the memorandum in control with the auditors. Since we were used to gonna have the storm drain fees passed, but it didn't pass. So it was inherited.
So we may have revenues coming in there. One of the things we put in the budget this year is the formation of districts. So if you have storm water issues on your property and your neighbor's property, the city did not pass that tax. It failed spectacularly. The second, when you look at the stormwater master plan, the second bullet point suggested for revenue sources, create districts. If those districts are created, then we would need a place to collect and disperse the funds from. So we may still have it. Another reason to keep it is the state is getting very serious about stormwater. They're going to make you at some point up here, we're going to have to start segregating those funds, at least for tracking and expenditure purposes, even if they're 100% general fund. So more to be determined on where we go with storm.
Okay, and then the equipment replacement is a new fund. But I thought you said you put $1 million into that. I only saw like $500,000.
I think $1 million was this
Facility
facility.
reserves.
For
Let me
facilities.
pull that out, yeah,
Okay, but there's a separate fund called Equipment Replacement Fund.
yes.
What page are you on?
This is just my.
We can pull, we
I-
can
I-
find it.
Yeah, I put it up.
That's okay.
Is that the equipment replacement fund with 500,000 in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So it's slide 10.
Very good.
Here's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, this is a slide. I was sort of looking at a summary of the funds.
Yes. Those are give you the big picture of all funds in here. How the beginning balance, so what's the revenue coming in, what is the transfer in, transfer, of course, transfer in equal to transfer out at this moment. And then also what's the expenditure also categorized with the capital expenditure, debt services. So those are different, yeah. So that's what it is. I want to point out there, I highlighted in like little shell yellow in the pending CIP PO rollover, because we are actually restart over the whole CIP project. So those are the remaining from this year. We under the obligation, but we haven't paid. That's why it's separate column in here. Those are for the projects, remaining projects.
Oh.
We go over this again. So on this one, we look at the 23-24, right? Yep, 23-24. So again, we're starting out the estimated fund balance in general fund for $10 million. And we're gonna subtract the pending, CIP carryover supposed to come from the general fund of 3.1 million. And then revenue, we just mentioned 53.6 million. Those are, include the property taxes and everything. And then we will total available source is 60 million. The expenditure for regular expenditures is 51 million. And the transfer out, it's not really a transfer out, it was 5.262. Those are also include the 2.5 million. 1.5 is gonna reallocate to the fiscal policy reserve, and 1 million to the on the top, that will be 1 million to the facility reserve. So that gives us $4.3 million unassigned the fund balance for the general fund at the end of the fiscal year. But total general fund balance will be 15 million. That's with the fiscal policy reserve and then the facility, the 1 million reserve. So those are the 15 millions right here. You will see in the general fund.
So that 4.3 then doesn't jive with, you said there was only 240,000. I thought that for CIP, or that we were ended in your.
We don't transfer anything to the CIP funds.
No, sorry, but your budget said, the slide said we had $240,000.
The surplus, yes, the surplus.
Okay.
But transfer out on this one, as I mentioned in my previous slides, this include the transfer to the internal service funds and the equipment replacement funds for the 500,000, and the dental fund 500,000, liability fund 500,000, and then the PERS for 500,000.
Okay, so because this uses available resources, not just the budget, so that's where this comes at 4.3.
Yes, at the end of June 30 or 24, yes, for unassigned.
So if I understand this correctly, this is allocated funds, but have not been paid out. Is that correct?
4.3?
Yeah.
No, 4.3, it is what's available to use anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
So they're
it's not
not
balanced.
allocated, they're just available.
Right. It's available for anything because the total is a 15 million, and then we have a fiscal policy reserve for 10. We allocated 1 for the facility reserve, and then that's what's leave us like a 4.3 in there. So those are available to reallocate. But I want to be I don't want to people think we have a 4.3 just can spend on anything. Like I mentioned, the column, the yellow column right there, the orange ones, those are pending CIP POs. Those are also carry over the project from this year. Even those are paid, right? If you flip on this, on the second page of this one, on this 423, if you look, also there's mentioned there's a 4.4 million right there. for the CIP actual expenditures. Those are actually for this year what we already spent. I allocate those costs based on the special revenue fund source, like if it is for gas, if for street and roads, I use the gas tax or Measure B. But however, Measure B and then what I call the TDA, and then also for vehicle registration funds, and those are reimbursement based. So I want to keep that 4 million here just in case we're not getting reimbursed from those. So just in case of emergency on that one. We should be able to, but however, at this moment, we haven't started process yet. The reimbursement process.
Go to the sewer fund line, please, because we're adding to that.
You want a 23 or 24? The
24.
24. Okay. This is the sewer.
Estimated fund balance 25 million.
Yeah. Again, this is 25 million. The sewer. Is that 25? 25. No, the sewer fund balance on this one is 13 million.
Started out.
I'll start out 25. That 25 also include the fixed assets. Remember, enterprise funds is treated as the private funds. You have assets, you have a depreciation, you have a plans and all those. So I think if I remember correctly, 15 million of them is unspendable. So those are not spendable. That's what it is.
The cash is something like 40% of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the number. So it's not 12-ish that was actually we're trying to get up by increasing. Okay, so 25. And then we think we have 9 in revenue.
Yeah, that's based on a survey study. Yes.
And we're gonna spend 8.
That 500,000 out of the sewer funds to transfer out, that's what's called, I mentioned before, the equipment replacement fund to buy the backhoe.
Sewer vector.
Yeah, sewer backhoe truck.
So that's 25 million. Is that existing cash?
No. It's included, not spendable for
Okay.
access. Yes.
It's about 12 million cash. So then that 13 that's left at the end.
Yes.
So what the breakup of that is? I mean, I thought we were building this thing up, not it's going down.
So we'll initially in the sewer rate study, we will burn through available reserves until we build it back up. The initial sewer rate plan called for a dramatic first-year increase, so we could pay for capital expenditures in cash. We chose to draw it down and smooth it over time. So I would anticipate the first 2 years, the actual cash in the sewer fund drops.
Yep. Okay, that's a lot of moving money. So I just wanted to look at that. Okay. Any questions?
So again, to beat the horse again, this suggests you're burning a fair bit of cash.
Yeah. Well, then there's 2 ways, right? One way in the sewer fund, we're burning the cash to deaden the increase. Burning the cash in the general fund is the free money has to come to.
When I look at this, it moves 30 million.
There's no doubt. We're trying to create this as a foundational budget that implements good, solid budget practices that we haven't had. When we look back to our general fund, our funded position, our cash position, looking back to 2015, 2016, we were strong. We've dipped way down in those 6 years. We had 6 or 7 years of consistent overspending, and we're trying to end that with the end of this 2-year budget and implement responsible budget practices moving forward. Good. But to your point, we're putting a lot of cash.
80 becomes 50, 10 of that's on the sewer side, 20 came from, if you will, the unregulated side of the house. Correct?
Yeah. It's a big year for Los Alamos.
Yes.
A lot of projects. We thought we spent a lot on the community center, but this is going to be simple.
Much larger.
The community center was 35. Was it that one? Yeah, 37, 38.
Sure.
Okay, any more questions from anybody? No? Anything?
We're not going to discuss any of the CIP stuff at all, which is.
No, I think we can, yeah. Yeah, that's. You have some
Well,
comments?
I think that mostly this falls in the category of if this gets into the public, which it was published this morning, people are going to ask you at that next meeting. Did people understand that they want the people who are advocates for a dog park if they know it's going to cost $1 million for 2 years? So my guess is nobody had any imagination that it was going to cost anywhere near that money. You've asked for $1.2 million, and I believe it was in replacement of signs. For 8,000 signs, that means you can get it costs about just under $9,000 per sign to replace one. Sounds like a big number to me. I think there are a few things in there that are I have problems with smell test on, but I'm not going to have to.
No, it's fair. I think it's fair, Arthur. I think you should say them. I think it'd be worthwhile just for the record.
No, I have the same feeling like the parks, $1 million to place fixtures in the park seems kind of high too. 200,000.
So I'll assume that there's a real estimate, a real plan, a real budget behind those numbers, but what I think most people are going to go, oh my God, how can that possibly be right?
So the traffic, the sign replacement, for example, is over time. That comes from traffic impact fees and general fund. And part of the reason it's expensive is we're trying to add flashing crosswalks or flashing signs in our pedestrian area. The genesis of this conversation came when I was talking with our traffic manager. We were talking about a pedestrian who got hit, and we named 4 pedestrians who were hit. We hadn't yet come to the accident that we were trying to pin. So this is up to 16 new light crosswalks. So it's expensive, but we're looking at that as a public safety play. The dog park we just started designing. And it really depends on the size, the quality of the dog park that we design. If parking lots have to be rearranged to put a dog park there. So the dog park's a little bit more contingent on design. That's $1 million out of park and lieu. So again, not general fund. So another one of the themes that you'll see is that the general fund dollars are the last dollars we spend. So we're going in with every other dollar first, giving our best guess. Some things we know really well. We know what a sewer corrosion control plan costs because we do it every year. Dog park we've never done, so our estimate's a little looser. Having said that, we could get a design back that costs between $500,000 and $1 million pretty easy, depending on what goes into design.
Could you walk me through Shoe Park and $1 million for the play structures? It seemed kind of.
Was going to ask that same question. Yeah.
It makes it interrupt you.
CF01038.
So Shelp is Shoop Park. Yeah, there's 2 playgrounds there. Both of those, I believe, are the oldest playgrounds that we have. So it includes not only design and replacement of 2 playscapes, but then also you'll notice if you go to parks in our town, we have the old wood chip 1.5 inch deep. We want to move to the ADA, which is the foam that you see.
Sure.
So making that's an expensive transition. Now over time, it would be cheaper to maintain, but more importantly, it would make the park accessible to anyone who has the ability to use it. So some of these things are replacement, some of them are upgrades. Mm-hmm. Every one of our play structures is beyond its useful life. So one of the things we're trying to do is hire one firm to replace all of them over time. So you're seeing that as a cost in this replacement, even though the design will be replicated in each park. I don't mean it's the same play structure, but the same firm will come in and design in each park.
But it seems like we're doing 3 parks for $500,000 worth of design. That seems like, well, how do we get to that number?
Well, I think we did a calculation on what the replacement of one of them cost. And then I think we just replicated that based on the design, the area, and also the age it's intended for. So playscapes are not cheap and they only last about 10 years.
That's not what we have. I know, but these are for parks.
Okay, so
You're gonna be on the hot seat,
Yep.
not us.
In fairness, Manny will be on the house.
Yes. More of the slides.
I don't know, it just seems like a lot of
John
engineering.
will do it for half.
There we go.
He's already got some bids. You know.
It's a fractions.
This shouldn't just be engineering, it should be installation. It should be all of it if we're looking at the same lineups here. And we should be doing two playscapes a year. Because again, we should have been doing this over time and we didn't. So now we have to double.
No, I totally agree with that, but it just seems like an enormous amount of engineering. All we're gonna do is put in place structures.
You need a contractor A license, not B, to do this work. Which is,
Well, you want to hire a subcontractor to do the whole thing.
you need an A license. To do this work, not a B. You can't just hire your friend.
I wasn't going to hire.
It's an expensive proposition. It is, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't replaced them. You know, one of the playscapes getting replaced here is from the 1980s. So, I mean, it's a cost that if you want to have parks, that's a cost that comes with owning the park.
Sure.
But it's not a cheap proposition. The first time we saw the cost of the ADA change over the playscapes, it was, I'll say, an alarming number. But it's something that we're committed to completing. But you see it come out in these numbers.
But I think you got what you were looking for here is questions that you may anticipate.
Yes,
Absolutely.
So my only other comment is that we talked about the areas of the possibility of areas of commission, what you have in the plan, what you're going to do about it. I think the one elephant in the room that isn't been mentioned is doing something about the police building. And that's not addressed in any way, not even a remote CIP thing for $1 That's the plan, it's to not talk about it. But it is
It's gonna decamp them all to $9.99 3 months. That's the
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah, that's.
That's right.
open the donut shop again, it'll just happen like.
yeah, I do think
The
council's gonna have to come up with a plan for us to move towards. We'll give them options that have varying degrees of likelihood. But I'll say the reason we didn't put in, even as a remote CIP, a $30 million building is because the ability of the city to fund and pay for that either through traditional loan or pay as you go to less than 1%.
We have
Yeah,
one more
we'll throw a
budget,
big
we
elephant.
might have one more agenda topic, so
All right.
I just want to try and see if we have. If we can
Any
get to it,
feedback?
it should be, sorry.
I was just taking the feedback right now, just, and also we do want to action on the approve moving forward with this 24 presented financials to the public hearing on the June 13th city council meeting.
So you want a motion
Yeah.
to recommend?
Yeah.
Recommend.
Recommend moving forward with this presented financials. Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Claris,
Approved.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Fallback,
Yes.
Commissioner Richmond,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Whipple,
Yes.
Vice Chair McClatchy,
Yes.
and Chair Copeland.
Last one. We have this financial policy review.
Yeah.
Should we just attend that biennial to annual budget, or just is it presented the
It's
budget?
in the policy, if we're not going to do a 2-year budget, then
Yeah.
we should change.
And
Yeah, but is there something we lose by not doing a 2-year budget? Was there something that's multi-year things that we cannot plan very well?
Annual budget is a little harder on staff, but I think it's much more appropriate for the management.
But yeah.
Which changes in 2 years.
So on the first one, we're gonna changing the first paragraph actually. This is the city manager may be involved in to present a annual budget instead of biannual budget. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. Any other comments on any other changes, right lines?
So I think some people sent their comments in, which obviously everybody can see. Were you able to incorporate them, or I mean, there were 5 or 6 areas that we had discussed last time that we were going to change. Right. Cybersecurity, yeah, that one, but actually I'm fine with the line there is that our policies that we will incur debt by the level of service, not by the level of capacity, debt capacity. So I'm okay. I think
I tried to incorporate.
If you look at our notes, minutes from last meeting,
yeah,
it was captured that
yes, my side of
management, IT systems, CIP, and potential subcommittee for an audit. So we're going to put these in the end. So is there an updated financial policy with those changes in?
Yes, the right lines in the capital improvement and the major maintenance program, I changed the title on that one. And then also I right lines with the definition of what is the capital projects, what is, I also added a paragraph.
That's from last time.
No, I just added this one. Oh, yeah, the definition. I posted on the 20th meeting and canceled, so yeah.
In this one you posted yesterday?
No, I posted the
This was originally posted for the May 22nd meeting that got canceled. But it was the changes that were suggested during the May 15th.
Yeah, this is the capital improvement program.
John, you had sent or wanted to send us a line on IT.
No, I did send it.
Yeah.
Is that included?
Nope.
Okay. You sent a much more than a line, but
I sent 4 sentences. Yes.
CIP clarity in terms of what is definition that you've already added. Is there any mention of the audit review in this policy? I'm not, because I can't see the changes you made.
Are we okay with the CIP definition? One block at a time, I guess. If I don't have any comments, we're gonna move to the right there. Also, we mentioned the reserve policy, and I was taking the recommendation to remove the line for emergency operation reserve.
Yes.
I scratched those line out. Yeah. So are we okay with that section at this moment, the change?
Yeah.
All right. So the third one will be the audit. The audit, and also added on the the city is encouraged to submit the annual effort and the popular annual financial report effort to the state or national government financial professional organizations. So I added that one sentence. Also the capital access, I reworded on that one because I was have the historical costs that how it reported only at the time of the acquisition. And also equipment, the capitalization threshold will be changed to 10,000 from 5,000.
Okay.
And financial policies, the IT, at the end, that was the last page, internal control for financial enterprise system.
Right.
I'm suggesting, because this is actually under other city department, the risk management departments. That's why I wrote the city works with the Bay City Joint Power Insurance Authority to conduct periodic cybersecurity audit.
If you can change periodic to annual.
I think that's more of a that's not prescriptive. That's too prescriptive to be in a policy document. I mean, that's just. I mean, that would change 3 years from now that you work.
Then you change it, but the bottom line is we have to do.
Yes, cyber audits. Just say that the city must do these things, but we can't tell the city in the policy document how to do them.
No, we shouldn't. We should just say that was the original paragraph I wrote. Every year, a cybersecurity firm will audit the city of Los Altos's critical IT systems that host and store financial and operational data for best practices. The audit shall address at a minimum penetration testing, cyber threats, ransomware, backups, written procedures, personnel, training of users, physical access to systems, power backups, and password management. A physical audit of all local hosts and data locations is required. A report will be presented within 45 days of audit to the city council, city manager, finance director, and the finance commission. The cybersecurity firm shall be selected by the city manager, approved by the financial commission and the city council. A different firm shall be used every 3 years.
So I would say I'm not entirely comfortable with any cybersecurity going into financial policy because it's not under the purview of this commission. If this commission wants that under the purview, the city council has to have it. So what we've put in is what we do with Bay Cities. And that's what we're comfortable including. But I will say, you know, overall, council hasn't given this this power duty to the financial commission, so it's difficult for Jim to include it as a rating.
I appreciate that, but we also are fortunate to have 2 council members with us, and we'd like to hear them weigh in with regard to cybersecurity. Should we do cybersecurity?
I can't say because council hasn't agendized it and talked about it in public view and come to a decision. So nothing I could tell you would reflect the will of the council on this issue.
You guys have an opinion on it? Because I mean, this is a critical thing. Cities are getting held up for ransomware. If we have a situation, an incident where we're talking about going to a new software or even for payroll. So let's take a nightmare scenario.
We've been down this, John. I mean,
Hold on, let me finish the thought. If we have a situation where we're down, completely down, how are we going to pay our fire? How are we going to pay our police? How are we going to pay you guys? And a system that is not audited and verified is not a good system. So help me understand. I realize we've been taken steps and taken away, but the bottom line is we're opening ourselves up to a real serious problem. Just look at what happened with Oakland.
So, but again, not having that under the purview of the financial commission does not mean we're opening ourselves up to a liability.
I understand, but are we addressing this somewhat?
I don't think it's appropriate for this commission to discuss it. If it's not part of our charter.
I think what we started off was we wanted to just have a line that said the financial reporting that, you know, there is some effort to maintain the integrity and of this data. It's, you know, just have a word line like that. I don't know if I sent it to you or not, June. I'm sorry, I may have, but maybe not.
Just clarifying question. The work plan that you just read off, when I was the CFO, that was called controls audit. And it was done by, under Sarbanes-Oxley, by our auditors. And it included all of those tests. Does that not carry over to public entities else?
What?
Do we not look to our auditors for some level of control?
No. We
Yes, but just for the financial app, that's it, not for penetration testing of our network, you know. That's what.
Well, it's penetration testing for the financial network. I mean, what do you think, Ron?
Well, so Sarbanes-Oxley, I lived with it too, and you did serious things to make sure that you weren't going to get hacked.
So again, we have to close the conversation down at this point.
Yeah.
I will say I would not assume, because it's not under the purview of the financial commission, that it's not being handled through our joint powers authority. The financial commission would
so
like.
Gabe, if I could just interrupt, I apologize for interrupting you during mid thought, but is there any way we could carve out what John has identified as very important for the financial applications, which are part of our responsibility? We are responsible for the security of the financial applications, you know, so why not carve it out specific for the financial applications, what we want to see for those? Why wouldn't that be? Mhm. Yeah.
Exactly, Martha. That's exactly why we asked to add a line on the financial reporting section about striving to ensure that the security integrity of the data, financial data, as being written here, and that's it. Not a whole procedure on what should be done to the rest of the IT systems or whatever. Right? So I agree with you, but I think we need to write at least one line that says that there's some efforts being made to secure this data. And
That's the line that's in here. Yes, I think it's the minimal that you could have, but I think it's there that they are going to have that kind of review done.
yeah.
But it uses
But
the word.
over pay grade.
But the audit we are talking about is actually the actual audit that we go through. It's not our pulp, we had proposed.
But how do we know it's being done? If it's being done, I have no problem. But how do we know it's being done?
The auditors.
The auditors are telling us it's not being done.
It's in the financial policy. They say it was done. They don't have to say it.
The last audit didn't say it was done.
They just have to say it was done. They don't have to tell us anything about it.
That's right. I don't need to know specifics.
It's complete.
Yeah.
I think during the any audit, the auditor was looking for on the financial system is the financial system access control is in place. That's mainly is their audit on who has access can do what. That will the audit the integrity of the data in the system. That's what they mainly what's the annual audit is focused on.
What
Which is also
what the auditor said wasn't done was we didn't have adopted policy for staff. We were deferring to the Joint Powers Authority policy. So we had to put it as our policy. So we took the policy we were following, formalized it. So again, I have no issue if this commission wants to try and add this to your powers and duties, but right now it's not there. So I don't know how to answer this different. And I apologize. If you would like to ask council to add that to your powers and duties, that's totally fine. But as of today, it's not under your purview.
I think it's appropriate. It should be under, the integrity of the financial data has to be.
I think you can agendize it and discuss it. If you want to make that request to council, that is up to this commission.
How do the other commissioners feel?
But again, you can agendize it. That's again. Talk about it. Feel free to agendize and discuss it. Okay.
So what I propose here, the writing under the internal control for financial enterprise system, and at this moment, is that be agreed upon? You move at this moment before
That's fine for now. Yeah.
I covered audit, I covered financial system and access control, I covered holding the regulatory section to raise the awareness for the staff of the staff.
So just so I think that's fine. On the audit itself, we were just talking about roles and responsibilities of the commission and who else and how we get engaged, and because right now we have one meeting at the end of the audit just when it's done. I mean, we were talking about if you really want to have an audit committee, their role is quite different from that of the financial commission. So that's something that we were in a different section of the financial policy, not systems. What is an audit? How does it happen? What role does a commission have in it? Because right now we have a very cursory role in the audit, and we just approve it. And frankly, it feels like we kind of do a rubber stamp on that.
I agree. So I think lots of cities.
I was just going I think those are both good topics. I think we ought to agendize them on a clear day when we don't have to move the budget along.
Yeah. So that would be in the financial, that's a audit. So I was talking about audit in that section, but not in the control systems.
I think lots of cities have audit committees, can be the city council, financial commission, can be a combination of it. If you guys want to agendize that, talk about it, we can bring that as a change recommended to council.
I think it's a good idea.
Attendance is being appointed to that is often a form of punishment.
Yeah, so be it.
So, but I think we can find a clear day when it's not turning towards 8 o'clock.
So
that's the need of the meeting.
Put it on the agenda for future meetings.
right.
And we'll fill the room with comments on it.
Yes.
So what do you need? A motion to?
Do I have, first, do I have anyone from the public to have a comments on the Kendall?
I have no hands raised.
Okay,
Should offer for the budget.
oh,
Because we've been
yeah, do we have any comments on the budget, which was talked about before from the public?
I have none.
No. All right. Right now, this one, we recommend this, revise the financial policy to, the city council on the June 13th meeting.
Motion. Move.
Thank you, Gary.
Now we're gonna put those comments in there. For our cybersecurity.
We're gonna presenting as what I wrote in
Yeah,
here.
what she wrote, and then the
Yeah.
future meetings we can talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what.
Further
To agenda, yeah, the
That's
extension.
fine.
It's always up for review whenever we
Yes.
want it. That's the main thing we do. I
Oh,
just want to make it.
Commissioner Thirst,
yes,
Commissioner Fry.
Yes.
Commissioner Colbeck,
yes.
Commissioner Richmond.
Yes.
Commissioner Whipple,
Yes.
Vice Chair McFatchie,
Yes.
and Chair Folkat.
Yes.
I think we do all three parts, right? Okay.
Okay. All right, so.
I think, you ready to go home?
Anything on the put it on the future agenda?
Yeah.
Other than-
We adjourn.
Well, before you adjourn, let's put some.
What, so it's, will the budget be approved by the time we meet next time? Or we present it, of course, like, I mean, you're ambitious enough to think it'll be done in one meeting with the council?
We are planning on two meetings. The council will have the option, and if they are so moved, to adopt it at the first meeting, but they have two.
So if you like, we can reserve some space in the next commission meeting to take up any questions that the council brings up on the budget that they may need us to get feedback. You know, we're happy to provide feedback on any particular.
I think that's a good idea.
So if you can just offer to the council that we will
Make
make
this
this.
in the staff report.
More people can be in the 4% book over and under.
Yeah.
So.
I'm ready to go
our
higher
next-
on my $10 to $20 on that.
Game,
Sorry. Yeah.
Our next meeting actually scheduled next Monday. So
Yeah.
so we want to move that?
Yes.
or-
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, so what day you want, our public hearing is on the June 13th, and then the 27th is adoption. So you want to move on the 19th?
Yeah. I
Something
have
to be
council
good.
meeting. Yeah.
Anybody?
Send out a
that-
poll after.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 19th, okay, any later that week, I'm in Europe. So
So we're talking about June 19th.
Yeah, June 19th, Monday.
Juneteenth.
Oh, sorry, it's Juneteenth, the holiday, will be the 20th.
20th, the Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday,
I can't do that.
Wednesday, 21st.
It's Juneteenth.
Best in city hall.
Yeah, Kansas City holiday is 20th, yeah.
Get like a pound and doodle. So
Okay.
here to do this.
Okay, I will send it out. What we can do 26. Monday,
That's good for me.
I'll be in
you'll be Europe.
so it'll be middle of the night.
23rd.
Mark that,
we're trying.
26.
I will send out a calendar.
Yeah, we can,
Good.
good to train.
All right,
Okay.
all right.
Great, thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
And
Good night.
yeah.
I got a lot of swag.
You might consider we. She's got to do it commercially for everybody.
I mean, they'll bid on it if they mean.